Hello, I'm Skylar, and I'm making this tutorial to help teach people how to texture hair in the style of Twilight Princess, my way. I struggled for a while to come up with my own techniques, but now that I have mastered it, I am going to do my best to share it with you all. This here is a model of Linkle that I am helping a friend with, and I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to kind of make this tutorial, so let's get started. First, you're going to want to get your UV map. I'm going to assume that anybody attempting to work with Twilight Princess or any kind of modeling software for modding is going to already know how to navigate a 3D program, so I'm not going to cover that. But you'll want to make sure that you have a decent UV map if you're making your own model so that it's easier to work with. I actually had to re-UV map this a little bit after they sent it to me just so that it'd be easier for me to texture. So let's head over to a imaging program. Our image editing program. I'm using Photoshop, and the way that I texture this is going to be really easy to replicate in any image editing program because the brush that I use is very simple. It's pretty much just the airbrush. So we're going to take our UV map and we're going to make sure it has like a black background of some kind, some way we can easily see under it. So we're going to set this to screen, which is good for until we put something. It's not going to look like it changed. I have already gotten a palette to try and save some time in this tutorial. I'm going to put it up over here, just so that you can easily reference it. Now you're going to want to take your base color. I like to work from dark to light because it's just a little bit easier that way. We're going to go a layer below our UV map. And now, because we put the layer type to screen, we should be able to see through it, so the black's no longer there. This is done to just kind of make it easier to keep the UV map in place if you accidentally move it. But yeah, we're going to start with our base color here. Now we're going to take our UV map and just kind of lower the opacity. It's just more going to be so for a reference so that we can look at it. It might be hard to see in the video, but I try to make it roughly here. So next, I'm just going to take like a pencil type brush, and we're going to use this to block out our highlights. And we're going to be using our model to reference it. So I'm going to go back over to Blender, and we are going to select kind of where the faces are going to be. To make this a little bit easier for me, I'm going to take this out of flat color and put it into shaded, just so it's easy for me to see. And I'm going to select faces kind of about where I want the highlights to be. So probably around here. That should do. Alright, so this is where I'm going to have my highlights. Now, if we're going to use this on our UV map and our image editor to reference. Now, if this doesn't look like this for you, there's going to be two little arrows up here in this left corner. It might look like this for you, but this will make it so that it shows everything, and you want only to reference the highlighted parts. So we'll go back to Photoshop, and we will start our reference layer. I'm going to label it just so that it's easier to keep track of for me. I'm going to name it Highlights Reference. And I like to just make it like a white, because it's not, the color for this isn't going to matter. Now I have Blender open in another tab. It might be easier just for you to kind of reference back and forth. I'm going to save this, just kids always keep a good save. But now I'm going to reference that and kind of draw them into my main texture. Now, the cool thing about this is you just got to be kind of rough because you're just basically blocking it in. I'll save that. Now, we'll go back to our Blender scene, and we will open this. We'll open a texture. So you'll make sure you'll go to here, add your material, click base color, and then, you know, add your image texture. Go back to flat color here. Oops. Flat texture. And now we check where our line is, and that kind of shows us where our highlight's going to be. Now, I kind of missed a spot, so I'm going to go back to there and look at it again. Just so that I can have my full reference. That's always important. Alright. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take our midtone, and we are going to start with that. And this is the color I chose for my midtone. And this one's my highlight, and I chose this one just kind of in between. We might not even need that, but we shall see. So grab your midtone, kind of lower the opacity on your highlight, and we do this just so that we can, for the same reason we do the UVs. We do not need this right now though, but this is going to be for later, so we'll just hide that entirely for now. Make a new layer. And we'll just make, this one's going to be our base strand, so I'm just going to name it strands, just for the sake of this tutorial. And save it. Save often, very important. Now we're going to take a soft brush, in some programs it may be called an airbrush. The main difference between that is the hardness. So that's a hard brush, and this is a soft brush. For me, I'm going to turn my spacing down just so that it's a little bit nicer. Next, we are going to turn on pressure for our flow, which is going to change how much pressure is, how much paint we put down with our pressure. So if I do it lightly, it's not as much, but when I press harder, it's more. Now, this is a tutorial mostly for artists, so I'm also going to assume that there's a graphics tablet of some kind involved. There's ways to do this with a mouse, but it'd be pretty difficult. I do not turn on pressure size because we want our strands to be pretty uniform. We may do that later, but for now we will not. We'll take down the flow. We'll take this down pretty low because we're going to be building up very lightly. I usually like to go with like 6. All right. So now we are going to start by what I do to make this look really nice is I try to go with the geometry. So I'm going to go back to Blender and kind of show you what I mean here. So for this big strand in particular, it kind of comes to a point about right here. So I'm going to be choosing a point on here and kind of painting towards it. So right here is kind of the pointiest part of it, so I'm going to be painting to this vertice right here. Alright. Make my brush kind of small, so we're going to want it to make hair strands, of course. Something I forgot to mention is it kind of, we're going to be starting from a point up here too. So this is going to be kind of where it comes out like this. So I'm going to be painting from there this way. Now I just kind of go long, slow strokes. Like this. Nothing too fancy. We kind of want to spread them decently. Now you can see they're kind of going to one point in particular, which is going to be right here. Now, just to give you an idea of what I mean, I will save it, and I will open back Blender, and I will reopen it. Now, the best way to really check this is to save it and just reopen it. It's the fastest way I've had to reload textures. So now we got a little hair strands going on there. So now we're going to repeat this just for all the strands on the model. Re-enable my UV map so I have a reference. Never be afraid to undo either, if you don't like how your stroke came out. It's easier to start this with the one continuous stroke. We'll be doing more of a build-up later. But if you can't help yourself, that's alright. Now this is going to be the point I'm going to be going for this guy. I really do just do the one strand at a time because that's really easier for this art style. It takes a while, but I think it really pays off because you have a lot more control this way. Now you can see that I'm going off the side over here, and that's okay. You don't want to have to go continuously at that point. It'll help it make it more natural. So as long as it's kind of going towards the flow of it, it kind of works out. So let's go ahead and give that a quick look in Blender. Pretty nice block out, I'd say. So now I'm going to do most of the hair real quick, the base layer, and I'm going to try and put it into time lapse. So we will be back with more details after that. So now we're going to move on to the next step. I had a little trouble with the braid there just because it's kind of hard to see how that will be in 3D. But you'll notice that our base color and what we've laid down is not quite as bright, which is what we were aiming for. See, because when we go over it gets darker. So we're going to take our pen and turn on pen pressure. And then in the settings, we are going to, if you see if I have it all the way down, this one right here is it tapers. We're going to make it so that it only tapers just a little bit. You turn it to 100% and it's a full taper. Or no taper. You turn it just a little bit so that it's got still round and nubby. I'll go about here. You'll have to figure this out in your modeling in your art program. But most of them should have it. You don't need to do this. This is just how I prefer to do it. So to illustrate what we're going to do next, I'm going to kind of try to explain it like this. So I'm going to turn off all my other layers here. So this is our hairline. On our next one, we're going to be going over each strand that we made like this. Each strand is going to be slightly shorter than the last one. Like this. But this is how we're moving our pen. This is all still going to be on one strand. To show you what I mean, I'll make my brush a little bit bigger. Got our strand, and then we'll be going over it like this. See how it's slowly getting brighter like this? As we zoom out, see how it gives you a nice kind of little highlight? So this is what you're going to be doing with your hand. Oh, hold on. This is the motion you'll be doing with your hand on one strand. What it's doing is it's building up. It's easier to see here because of how my opacity is set. You can see where it kind of, each little gradient changes. So we're going to be doing that to all of the strands. Now I'm going to show you that in motion. Re-enable all of my layers. Put my reference layers away. Now you're going to want your brush to be just a little bit smaller than it was. I was using my brush at 18, as you can see. So I'm going to make it 16. Now using that trick I just showed you, we're going to be going over these strands again. I'm going to take my UV layer and make it just as light as possible, just so I can barely see it, just so that it's not in my way. So it'll be something like this. Alright, that was my first pass. Now I'll be going a little shorter strokes, so I'm going to be going in smaller strokes. Instead of going full strokes like this, I'm going to be going over them in shorter strokes. What we're doing is we're building up towards our highlight. That reference we made earlier is going to be the next step after this, but for now we're going to be building up. This is what we're using to build up our depth. So on our last pass, our stroke should be really short, like this. I'll go on this longer piece here. Don't worry about losing strands, like in this dark area right here, because we have our back layer to go back and fix that later, which sometimes is something I will do if I lose that line that I like. It is a rather slow process, but it is, I think, pretty worth it when you get to the point of like it starts to take shape. Right here is a perfect example of how I could show you that again. So I want my brightest part to be closer to here. So my point will always start here instead. It won't go to it won't be going in the middle like this. It'll be going more towards that point. So I'll be going like this. I'll always try to keep it curved there. I kind of messed up there. I'll have to go back and see where I want the highlight on the back of the head, but yeah, that's how you kind of how you shape this up the way that you would like it to. These braids are going to be difficult for me later. Check how it looks over in Blender. So this is the before. Open it again. And you'll see we'll be starting to get some kind of depth in there. I'll turn off the UV map in Photoshop, just so it's not on the model. And as you can see, it's starting to take shape here. So I'm going to go through in time-lapse again and kind of fill this in the same way that I did before. And I'll come back to you for the next step. Alright, so if you have a fourth color like I do, this is where you would start putting that in. And this is where you're going to start kind of referencing your highlight. I'm going to make a new layer for this entirely. Sorry, just fixing my organization here. Now you want to make a new layer anytime you start to go to a different shade, just so that, just in case you need to go back. So, my highlight here. I have my fourth color. This is going to be the one right before my highlight color. And this is where you're going to start trying to bring it closer to what you have marked here. And you're going to be using the same technique I just showed you a moment ago. You're definitely going to want to be more dark towards the edges. I'm using a fourth tone because blonde is a tricky color, but so you should be able to get away with 3 colors. See, I'm trying to bring it closer to my line here. The more you get used to doing these textures, by the way, you'll come to realize that a lot of this is just flicking your pen in direction. Once you get a lot more comfortable with it. Sometimes it also helps to disable that and your reference to make sure that you don't want one area to be more bright like the over here. So that's how I know I gotta go back and maybe add a little bit more down for that. Just make sure you keep the same technique of making your strokes shorter like that, or like this. It does take a while to kind of like get used to it because you kind of just eyeball it. As I'm doing a tutorial, I'm maybe not doing the greatest job like I usually try to do, just because I'm trying to not take too much time on it. But that is essentially how you're going to be moving. If you have strands disappeared, just remember that we can go back and fix that later. Because near our final step, we will be going back in with a dark color anyway to kind of add a little bit of shading in. Because right now we're building the hair itself, and then the final step will be refining it. So let's check this out and get rid of our reference here. You zoom out, and you kind of start to see the effect a little bit more. Let's go over to Blender, check it out. Now the next layer, when we do the highlights, is where it'll really start having a lot more depth. Alright, now I have this nice and blocked out. In my time lapse, I went back and made my strands a little bit thinner in a few places just so that they would look a little bit nicer. This is the part where we're going to start and refining the hair a little bit. We're going to be going and doing a little bit of blending. Like, I got a lot of dark spots here. And we're going to do that with a bigger brush. But first I'm going to show you how to go ahead and blend. Then you're going to need your low opacity brush and the color picker. Now this is going to be super simple. I'll show you how I do it. So I'm going to blend between these first two colors here. So I'm going to pick one or the other. I'm going to go for the lighter tone. And I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger to kind of illustrate what I mean. Color pick it. And lightly brush in between. You can see the color difference, right? And then you'll just kind of like go between it like this. Now you'll notice that there's this gradient you got going on here. And they're different colors. So you're just going to be kind of going between the two. So this is where we started. So we'll go to this one, the little gradient here. Might be hard to see in the video. We'll color pick it, and then we'll color blend here. And then between here and here, you can kind of get right here. Blend. Here, blend. Here, blend. And you just kind of keep going back and forth doing that. And now you kind of got yourself a little gradient. So So we're going to go to the hair and kind of apply that same technique. Just to spots like this dark spot here, I'll go back and I'll kind of blend her in there. Just anywhere that you kind of see is a little too much, or towards the end here you see it was a little bit blobby here, so I'll grab this color here and I'll kind of just blend it outwards. Try to make it a little more gradual. This doesn't make a huge difference, but if you're OCD like me and you know it's there, it'll just bug you. Oh, I should keep an eye on where the edge of your UVs are. You can go outside of them, of course, but you don't want any abrupt endings before the UV. You would rather have them come out. Now here's a good place to blend here. Now, here's a good place to kind of show you how to go back and add some more strands. So you'll color pick your background color. If you need to, just make it a little bit darker. And make your brush a little bit smaller. Let's go 10, because that's for my canvas personally. Let's see. Yeah, that'll work. Rotate just to make it a little easier on me. And now I got this area here, I'll kind of go in and I'll break up the strands a little bit. If it gets too dark, don't worry, because we'll go back and fix that. Alright, so now we got a lot of color in there now, so we kind of lost it, right? So we're just gonna go and go over here and kind of grab our palette. Sorry, my Photoshop kind of glitched there for a second. And then we'll go back over here. And in the area we just lay down some more lines, we'll just go back in between those lines and add some back of our mid-tone. There's a lot of push and pull when it comes to doing this hair. That. Now, because there's some spots where I kind of want it to be a little bit brighter, I want to make a little, or a new layer. Make my brush a little bit bigger like this, and kind of keeping my highlight area in mind. I'm gonna take that bigger brush with my mid-tone color. I just lightly go over the spots. Now see, that's a little much, so I'm going to take my flow just a little bit more down. I just kind of lightly go over those spots. So I want this to be a little bit, this is going to be closer to a yellowish blonde when I'm done, hopefully. But I'm just going to kind of gently go over this area. Kind of eliminating also some of those darker lines. This is another way to do that. It's very lightly. You know what's cool is because we name a new layer, if we don't like it, we could adjust it by just turning down the opacity on the layer. But I think it's pretty alright for how I want it. I'm not going to go into a tutorial on the braids because I'm kind of just winging that. I've never done them before. Oh yeah, I kind of like that. I'll save that. Check it over in Mr. Blender. Not too bad. Now I can see that I kind of want to go a little more over here, so I'll go back over to Photoshop. Since I know that's kind of towards the top there, I'll just, again, lightly, I do little circular motions very lightly with my pen. See, that looks a little consistent, so I'll just undo it and kind of try to go again. Just kind of go a little more towards the top there. Alright. Yeah. Over here, do this a little bit over here too, because I forgot it. Alright. So next, let's go ahead and try the highlights. Make this new layer, try highlights, or type highlights. Grab my color palette here. Now, this is where we're going to be sticking much closer to this line, these lines we made for the highlights. For this, I'm going to make my brush maybe a little bit smaller than the starting brush that I did, because I want nice thinner strands. The strands start to get thinner when you get to the highlights, and this is only a personal preference thing. This is something that you kind of want to see. If you like how your strands look right here, you'll just highlight over your strands. But for this, you're going to be using the exact same technique that I've been talking about this whole time, where you kind of go over your hair in these short little lines like this, kind of blending them out. All right, so let's get started here. So while we will be sticking closer to our highlight edges there, what we are going to do is kind of like, we want it to look organic, so we're going to kind of like just do a little bit of flicking. You'll notice that like none of these lines are going to be the same length. This hair, just the way that it works, is a little bit more random. Here a little bit. So always rotate if you need to, if it makes it more comfortable for your hand. I use a drawing tablet with a screen, but I know some people are pros with just normal pad tablets. So these strokes are almost in a kind of zigzag. So I'm kind of doing something like this with my hand. The more that you get used to this, you'll kind of naturally go into those shapes that you've already made. It takes a little bit of practice. But I've been working on this kind of stuff for years, so because it's a little dark, a little bright over here, I'll take my brush, make it a few pixels bigger. I'll just kind of blend this out a little. Color pick, blend out. Color pick, blend out. Now this is going to be different for everyone, because obviously everyone's hair is going to be different, and it's really just depending on how you look at it. You just kind of start to adjust to this as you get used to doing this kind of hair. It's not too bad. It's literally intimidating at first. It was for me, especially when it comes to like blonde color, because I'm colorblind, and so it can be a little difficult sometimes. Blonde is definitely a kind of hair color. You're going to have more colors in it, just because to get the right kind of colors for blonde, it's a mixture of like red, brown, yellow, Yellow being closer to the brighter color, red being kind of closer to the darker color, because red's adding a little bit of light to it, to the brown. So blonde is definitely a really complicated kind of color. Alright, so got a little bit of base there. Save it. Let's check it in Blender. Alright, so we can blend that a little more. There we go. Now we're starting to get more of that blonde color in there. This area right here, something you can go back and blend. It's just probably what I'm going to do with my big brush technique that I was showing you guys earlier. But yeah, we'll go back in the time lapse and see where this goes. So we've kind of reached the end stage here. This is going to be our near final texture. Our next stage is going to be the polish process. We are going to go through and kind of add some more actual shadows and depth to the texture. Now that we've got the hair itself done, so for example, this part of the bangs here, we're going to go and add a little bit of shadow to it. We've got our highlights all nice in there. We're going to take a color here and kind of like give it a little soft shading so that it kind of blends together. And then for the hair strands, we can kind of go over it a little bit and, you know, make it just a little bit softer so it's not so harsh. So, heading back over to Photoshop for me, you'll want to re-enable your UV map here so you can kind of reference it. We'll make a new layer. We're going to call it Polish. Call it whatever. And first we're going to start with the, let's start with a little bit of the softening. So for this bright area here, I'll color pick it, make my brush big, make sure my brush up there is nice and soft, and I'll just kind of, like in the last step, we'll just very softly go over it. This is going to really soften those harsh edges that we've kind of left in there. Don't be afraid to kind of just go up towards the edges too. Make a really uniform color. Do that over here on the back of the hair too. This will give it a nice soft, fluffy kind of look. At least in my opinion. It'll also help blend out a little bit of imperfections that we've left. So I pick up in the dark shadow area. Try to blend her out. Blend over here. Oh, that might have been a little too much, so we'll just leave that. Don't be afraid to, just kind of work yourself around the texture. Just wherever you see, you could use a little bit of that. Now, we'll go with our base color that we started with. Maybe just take it a little bit darker. And we'll start going over the texture in areas we want some kind of depth to it. I'm going to just make a selection around this so I don't actually paint over anything I've done. The reason why I'm doing this is because we're going to use a bigger brush for that. So this is kind of be based on how you feel like the hair should be blocked in with volume. So right here I can see like a kind of strand like this, right? So I'm going to try and like very softly just recreate that big strand with some shadow. You can see on mine, I think it's about roughly right here. So we'll go double check on our model just so that we don't shade somewhere we don't want to. Yeah, there. So just be real soft about it around that edge. Brush a little bit smaller. Kind of paint on the outside of that. Do the same on the other side, because you got this shape here. Yeah, we got this shape here, and we're gonna be kind of, like this is basically what we're gonna be doing, but very softly. Just make sure that your opacity is nice and low. The big thing about it is just not overthinking it, which I'm terrible at, honestly. I overthink everything. Brush a little bit bigger for right here. You'll just have to brush your brush size as you go, just to kind of fit the block you have of your mesh. The back of the head I probably won't do quite as much, mostly just because it's unnecessary. Probably help if I deselected that, wouldn't it? Just do a quick little block over here. Oh. Kind of want to go with the flow of the hair. The goal here is mostly to add depth. So these are basically making our hair clumps, which adds volume. This part could be a little difficult sometimes for me because I'm colorblind. I start to lose some of the strands, but it is what it is. Just take your time with it and have fun with it. Take your time. I don't really gotta do much over here. And you see how you kind of add some depth there. And now we're gonna go back with our small brush and zoom in. Just try to fix anything that we kind of accidentally lost in that. Bring some of them strands back so that it's a little more consistent. It does look like I got kind of lucky here and I don't got to do a lot of cleanup. Back at it. Some more strands here. More thin strands, I should say. Places I went a little too soft with it. Put some of that detail back in. Progress for this stuff really isn't linear. You just kind of work at it and back and forth. I like to think of it almost like sculpting. You're just kind of like molding it into something rather than being direct. It's already done here. I kind of want to be a little softer, so I'll go with my smaller brush and just kind of blend it out. Now, if you're wondering how I learned this, I had a friend. He actually used to work on Project M, which is a Smash mod, and the advice I got for him was try using a soft brush. And so I did, and I kind of just felt my way around it, kind of observed how the textures were done for Twilight Princess HD, which, despite what people think, I think they did a really great job with that. And so I kind of studied their textures to learn this art style. Now, we'll make one more layer, just so that we can have a little more control of this. And we're going to call this the blend layer. It's not really going to be perfect, but this is just going to be kind of making it so that the areas where the seams are a little bit less noticeable. Then this is where we'll go back to our base color, because we're going to be blending it into that. Just kind of softly towards the edges, bring up your UV so that you can keep an eye on that guy. And just give yourself a little bit of shading at the edge there. I'll do that same over here, because I know this is where it's going to blend in together. I'll go heavier towards the end of the seam. Maybe I'll add a little bit to the tips here. This part doesn't really need to be blended, but it'll add a little bit more depth. And okay, let's see how it looks in Blender. All right, save it, reopen it, boom, and there you go. You got some depth. Oops, I forgot to remove the UV map. So you'll notice that I made the bottom of the hair here a little bit darker than the rest, and that's just so that there's a little more depth. That's why the highlights here are a little more intense than down here. Now, see how we kind of blended this together right here? Now, I might have gone a little bit too much there, so I'll go back in there and I'll touch that up real quick. Now, to make it non-destructive, I'm going to add a mask to it. So that way, instead of erasing it, if I erase too much, I could change the color back to white and bring it back. This is what that would look like. So completely black is gone, completely white brings it back. So make my brush black, and I'll just kind of edge it back out. Now I know that I have the amount of shading that I want, but I put a little too far outwards. So I'll just brush it out. Do the same over here, just so that we're not got it too bright. I also noticed that I got these probably a little bit too thick, so I'll go back with my bigger brush. I'll try to just make some of those strands a little bit bigger. Just get rid of some of these in between strands. Bring back a dark color, make it a little smaller. Just give that back some of that depth. There we go. I like that. Now I see there's a little bit here that needs a little bit more, so I'll pick a color, the bright color next to it, shorten my brush, bring some of that color back. But yeah, just mess with it till you like it, till you're satisfied. Say right here is probably about where I'm going to call it good. Maybe come back and I'll soften these a little bit. See, I'm learning as I make this video too, because I've never really done braids before. I'll soften it. Just give it a little softness. Zoom out. Yeah, I think it's pretty convincing. Save it. Go back to Blender and let's check it out. There we go. Okay, I like that way more. Now those strands aren't way too big and they're consistent here. All right. Let's see. I think I got a little dark over here, so I'm gonna try and. So, all right, so that's this UV over here. So let's go over there and I'll maybe brighten it up a little bit just so that it blends nicely. So that's this area over here. Go back to my polish. I'll put in the sock. Bring my brighter color, and I'll just make my brush a little bit larger. Just very softly towards the edge here. Oh, I passed it a little too high. Just very softly over this edge. Just make it a little bit brighter so it's not so dark. The blender. Save it, reload. There we go. That's a little bit more nice. A little nicer. But now I have that visible seam, so I might actually just go and take that back out. Or soften it a little bit. Or, well, we'll use the masking technique I just showed and just kind of reduce that. You always check your mask. All right, well, we'll check it one more time, and then I think we'll call it on the video. All right, yeah, that looks better. All right, so I hope this helped some of you out there, and let me know. I hope to see many people kind of pick this up. Goodbye.